Do you ever feel like you're trying so hard but getting nowhere? You wake up, determined to change, to get things done, to become better. You tell yourself, today will be different. But by noon, the old habits have already swallowed you whole. The gym is left unvisited, the work you planned is untouched, and that promise you made to yourself is broken yet again. It's a heavy, sinking feeling. You're trying with all your might, but pure effort, raw willpower, is a fragile thing. It cracks under pressure and dissolves in the face of distraction. You feel weak, and with every failed attempt, a piece of your confidence dies. You're not alone in this war. Most people are fighting the same battle and losing, because effort is not enough. You're not weak because you lack will. You are weak because you lack a system. What if I told you there is a way to stop this cycle of failure? To not just try, but to build something solid, something unshakable inside you. The legendary samurai, Miyamoto Musashi, knew this. He didn't just win duels. He built a philosophy of life that transformed him from a young, erratic fighter into an invincible master. He understood that true strength isn't about brute force, but about a methodical, relentless process. A system. In his final work, a week before his death, he left us with a guide, the Path of Walking Alone, Budō, containing 21 precepts to guide one's life. It wasn't just about fighting, it was a way of living that made him impossible to defeat. His path wasn't built on willpower, but on a 4-stage system that forged mental fortitude, one that we will unravel today. This video is not about empty motivation. It is a roadmap to transform yourself from the soft version of you into a savage one. We'll start by understanding that life itself is your training ground, your dojo, and that discomfort is your greatest teacher. Then, we will explore how purpose, a single-minded objective, gives meaning to every painful step. You will see how to test your discipline in the brutal reality of the world, and finally, how to achieve absolute mastery, transcending technique until you become the very force you once pursued. By the end of this journey, you will have a complete system to build an unrecognizable version of yourself. You will have a framework to build a disciplined mind and a life that no longer crumbles under pressure. The path is not easy, but it is a path to becoming invincible. Most people think of discipline as a brutal act of willpower, as an enemy to be fought with daily. They see it as a punishment, a chore they must endure to get to a better future. But this thinking is a poison that guarantees failure. It makes you believe that discipline is something you do, a task to check off, instead of a part of who you are. This flawed belief is why you fail every time you try to change. You force yourself through a few days of hard work, a few hours of an uncomfortable task, and then, as soon as the pressure eases, you return to your comfortable, old self. The training ends when the clock runs out, not when the transformation is complete. This is the difference between a life of fleeting efforts and a life of constant evolution. The true path, the first stage on Miyamoto Musashi's journey, is Shuyo, a brutal concept that means life is your dojo. It's the unromantic truth that training doesn't happen in the gym or at your desk. It happens in the uncomfortable, quiet moments when no one is watching. It happens in the boring, repetitive tasks that everyone else avoids. It is the practice of tempering your mind and body in the fires of everyday life. Consider the old masters, the Zen monks, who meditated for hours under freezing waterfalls. They weren't seeking pain, they were seeking stillness. They were teaching their minds to be calm when their bodies screamed in protest. The discomfort was a tool, an instrument to hone their focus. For Musashi, the path was everywhere. He didn't just practice with a sword. He practiced calligraphy, painting, and sculpting. Every single one of these arts was a way to sharpen his mind, to perfect his presence, and to teach his spirit to be calm and unwavering. In his writings, he explained that the way of the warrior includes many arts. He knew that by studying many arts and ways of life, a warrior would be able to see the way in everything. He believed that to truly master the way of the long sword, a warrior must master himself. When you polish your way, you see it in all things. The same way you train your body to be strong, you must train your spirit to not be easily influenced by others. He saw that the wisdom of a warrior is different from other things. The point of this first stage is to stop making an artificial distinction between training and life. The moments you're most likely to give up are your greatest opportunities to build. That cold shower you skip, that one more rep you avoid, that difficult conversation you put off, Each is a chance to build an unbreakable mind. This is about making a conscious choice to embrace a small, daily discomfort. It's about choosing a tiny battle you can win every single day to build up your self-trust. It's an internal war where every small, intentional act of discipline is a victory over the soft version of yourself. Start small. Pick one thing that makes you uncomfortable and do it for 100 days. It could be waking up 30 minutes earlier, doing 10 push-ups, or simply avoiding your phone for the first hour of the day. The task itself is unimportant. What matters is the consistent, relentless practice of winning. It's about building a foundation so solid that when the real battles come, you won't need to think. Your discipline will be an instinct, a part of who you are. The way to become the mentally toughest version of yourself is not through heroic acts, but through a brutal, daily commitment to self-confrontation. A commitment that transforms your mind. The danger of embracing Shuyo, of making life your dojo, is that it can become an endless, pointless exercise in suffering. To endure discomfort for the sake of endurance alone is simply masochism. It is a path that leads to exhaustion and resentment, not to mastery. Many people get stuck in this phase, believing that the mere act of grinding is enough. They wake up early, they work long hours, they push their bodies to the limit, but they are doing it with a hollow heart. Without a guiding force, without a clear, specific objective, all the pain and struggle you inflict upon yourself is nothing more than empty movement. It is discipline without purpose. The samurai knew this truth with brutal clarity. For them, every swing of the sword was not just a physical act, it was an expression of their purpose. They were not just training, they were preparing to protect their lord, to fulfill their duty, to defend their honor. This is the second stage of the path, Budō. Budō is the way of the warrior, but it is not just about combat. It is the alignment of your spirit with a higher purpose. It is the answer to the question, why am I doing this? For Miyamoto Musashi, this purpose was the relentless pursuit of perfection in his art. He wrote that his heart had been inclined towards the way of strategy since his youth. He devoted himself to training his hand and tempering his body. He fought in over 60 duels without a single defeat. But when he looked back on his victories, he realized that they were not because he had truly mastered strategy. He was just winning. He realized his victories were due to natural ability or because the other school's strategies were inferior. He only began to realize the true way of strategy when he was 50 years old, after studying morning and evening and searching for the core principle. He understood that a superficial victory meant nothing if the spirit behind it was weak. This is the essence of Budō. It transforms a simple, repetitive task into a sacred ritual, turns suffering into a tool. Think of it this way. A man wakes up at 5 a.m. to run. He hates it. He does it because he feels he should, because of some vague idea of health. But his spirit is not in it. He is a man running without a destination, and sooner or later, he will stop. But another man wakes up at 5 a.m. to run. He also hates the physical discomfort, but he is running to honor a promise he made to himself. He is running to prove to himself that he is the kind of man who finishes what he starts, that he is stronger than his own weaknesses. The act is the same, but the purpose is different. One is a prisoner of a chore, the other is a warrior on a mission. This is how you use purpose to transform your mundane struggles. The next time you find yourself in a difficult situation, stuck in traffic, enduring a boring meeting, or facing a moment of doubt, do not just endure it. Find its purpose. Use the silence of the traffic to clarify a goal. Use the boring meeting to practice active listening. Use the doubt to challenge the very core of your limiting beliefs. The struggle of a warrior is not against external forces, but against his own weaknesses, doubts, and fears. The true lesson of Budō is captured in a simple saying, fall 7 times, stand up 8. It is not about avoiding failure, but about having a purpose so strong that failure is merely a temporary condition, not a final destination. Your purpose must be greater than your momentary suffering. It must be something you can hold on to when the discomfort of Shuyo becomes unbearable. A system without a purpose is just suffering. Your purpose is the fire that forges the iron of your discipline. Without it, you will crumble. So far, you've been training in the shadow. You've accepted that life is your dojo and you've aligned your pain with a purpose. You've been building your fortress of discipline, brick by brick, in the quiet, unseen moments. But a fortress that has never been tested is just a pile of stones. It is an untested theory. A sword that has never tasted blood is just a beautiful piece of steel. It is an art, not a weapon. This is the truth that separates the disciplined from the truly strong. Anyone can follow a routine in a controlled environment, when the stakes are low and there's no real pressure. The real question is, what happens when reality strikes back? This is the third stage of the path, Musha Shugyo, the warrior's pilgrimage. It is the brutal, unforgiving moment when you must leave the safety of your comfort zone and test your discipline against the world. It's the journey to prove that your system is not just a theory, but a force. It is the moment when you look fear in the eye and say, I am ready. Musashi was a master of Musha Shugyo. He roamed the land, challenging the most respected masters of different schools, not to prove his superiority, but to test his own way. He learned that simply accumulating knowledge was not enough. The wisdom of a warrior is different from other things. He would fight for survival, judging the strength of his attacks and understanding the way of the edge and ridge of the sword. He understood that the real way of the sword is the craft of defeating the enemy in a fight, and nothing else. He knew that to truly master the way of strategy, you must train diligently. This relentless journey, this constant confrontation with the real, brutal world, is what forged his legendary mind. It's what allowed him to transcend simple technique and make his spirit invincible. You must apply this same principle to your own life. The promises you make to yourself in the morning are just words until they are tested. The discipline you practice in your comfortable home is just a habit until it faces a real-world obstacle. When you're at a party and someone offers you a drink after you swore to stay sober, that is your Musha Shugyo. When you are on a tight deadline and the temptation to procrastinate becomes unbearable, that is your battlefield. When someone insults you and your mind floods with anger, that is your opponent. The goal is not to win every single time. The goal is to see where your discipline breaks. To face the brutal truth of your own weaknesses. The true strength of a warrior is revealed not in his victories, but in his ability to endure and adapt after a brutal defeat. This stage is a confrontation with your own honesty. Did you truly prepare? Or were you just pretending? It's a moment of truth that strips away all the comforting lies you tell yourself. It's here that you realize that all the self-help videos, all the books, all the morning routines, and all the affirmations were just the preparation. The real work happens now, in the moment of truth. And it is in these moments that you can either confirm your power or surrender it. A warrior is not a man who practices. A warrior is a man who tests his practice. A man who, with his spirit open and unconstricted, looks at things from a high point of view, cultivating his wisdom and spirit. After the brutal truth of Musha Shugyo, after the tests that revealed your weaknesses, you arrive at the final, most profound stage of the warrior's path, Shuhari. Most people who hear this term think of it as a simple three-step process to learn a skill. They believe it's just about repetition. They are wrong. It's not about doing something well. It's about becoming it. This is the difference between an amateur and a master, between someone who practices a craft and someone who embodies it. Shuhari is the final alchemy where your system of discipline, purpose, and confrontation transforms into an invincible state of being. It's the stage where the struggle ceases to be a struggle and becomes your nature. The first step is Shu. The word means to obey or protect. At this stage, you must follow the teachings of the master and the rules of the way without question. You are a student, a beginner, and your ego is a dangerous obstacle. You must not seek originality, but perfect replication. Think of a young samurai learning to use his sword. He must repeat the basic cuts and stances thousands of times, exactly as his master taught them. It seems boring, repetitive, and without creativity. But this is the foundation. This is where you learn to trust the system, to internalize the movements, and to build the muscle memory so that the basics become automatic. In a fight, you don't have time to think about the right footwork or the perfect grip. Your hands and feet must move without thought, instinctively. This is the goal of Shu, to make the fundamentals an extension of your body and mind. It is a stage where humility is your greatest strength. The true path of a warrior is the craft of defeating the enemy in a fight. The second step is Ha. The word means to detach or break away. This is the moment when you have fully absorbed the fundamentals, and you begin to question them, to break the rules. You see the principles behind the techniques, and you start to adapt them to your own unique situations and strengths. You realize that a rule that works in one context may fail in another. Musashi himself broke away from the traditions of his time. He invented a style that used two swords, a practice that was considered radical. He didn't do this out of arrogance, but out of a deep understanding of strategy. His relentless training with a bakken, a simple wooden sword, allowed him to face opponents with a katana and win. He knew that the way of strategy is straight and true. He understood that the true value of sword fencing cannot be seen within the confines of sword fencing technique. This is the essence of Ha. You are no longer a copy of your master, but a living expression of the principles you learned. You have a system, and now you have the wisdom to apply it in a way that serves your purpose. The final stage is Ri. The word means to separate or transcend. At this point, you no longer need the forms or the techniques. You are the way. The sword is not in your hand, it is in your spirit. You do not think about cutting, you are the cut. Musashi wrote, "From one thing, know 10,000 things." He was referring to the ability to see the underlying principles in everything. The man in Ri stage doesn't practice discipline, he is discipline. The practice is no longer something he does, it is who he is. There is no longer a gap between his intention and his action. The warrior's virtue is based on overcoming men. He is not moved. He has become a rock. He doesn't struggle with temptation because he doesn't see it as a struggle. He simply operates. He doesn't need a system because he has become the system itself. This is the culmination of the path, the ultimate victory over yourself. You've now walked the path. You've seen the way laid out by Miyamoto Musashi, a system forged not in theory, but in the fire of over 60 duels. You've journeyed from Shuyo, making your life the training ground for your mind and body, to Budō, giving that training a higher purpose that fuels you through discomfort. You've faced the brutal reality of Shugyo, where your discipline is tested against the world, revealing the truth of your strength or weakness. And finally, you've grasped the meaning of Shuhari, understanding that the goal isn't just to practice a way, but to become the way itself, until discipline is as natural as breathing. But all this knowledge, all this wisdom, is worthless if it remains a concept. The true power lies not in understanding the path, but in walking it. The warrior's journey is not a one-time event. It is a continuous, daily confrontation. The secret to tomorrow's battle is not some magical strategy or a sudden burst of motivation. The secret is the small, quiet, and uncomfortable practice you commit to today. It is the victory you earn over yourself of yesterday. This is the essence of Musashi's philosophy. A disciplined life is not about winning an occasional fight, but about being ready for the war that never ends. You don't get to a point where the effort stops. You get to a point where you become so strong that what once seemed impossible now seems normal. The struggle doesn't get easier. You get stronger. This is the final, brutal call to action. Do not wait for a perfect moment, a new week, or a flash of motivation. Those are excuses, lies you tell yourself to remain in the comfortable cage of your own weakness. The battle for the rest of your life begins now. Not tomorrow. Not in a few hours. But in this exact moment. Take a deep breath. Stand up. Choose one small, uncomfortable thing and do it. It can be as small as putting your phone in another room or as simple as doing a single push-up. The size of the action doesn't matter. The commitment to it does. You have a choice, to remain a victim of your own habits, or to begin the work of building a mind that is truly invincible. The path is waiting. The question is, are you? If this message resonated with you, subscribe to the channel. Share your thoughts in the comments about what you are going to practice from now on, so that together we can keep our journey going.